So Hayden Christensen just gave the Wired magazine an exclusive interview about all of the web's most searched questions. One of those videos where he is ripping off small pieces of paper taped to the back, and it reveals the web search and Hayden needs to answer. However, something weird happened in this interview where the question was what Hayden Christensen, and the first question was what was Hayden Christensen's first movie. He actually went on to answer that in great detail about being in the first movie after 92 in John Carpenter's movie, but the next question was skipped altogether, and it could still be seen. The question was, what was Hayden Christensen's last movie? This is where the fandom just went flying with conspiracy theories, talking, of course, about the last movie being a Star Wars movie that Hayden Christensen is not allowed to talk about yet, and I very much think that this is Dave Filoni's latest movie that is being planned for in the Mandoverse. This will take place after Ahsoka Season 2, where Ahsoka supposedly comes back into the main galaxy and will battle Thrawn, who will bring together the Imperial Remnant going against the New Republic. This might tie into these new witches to these not good or bad witches, you know what I'm saying? But I find this fascinating because he went on to answer the third question, which was what is Hayden Christensen's favorite song and his first movie, but he did not answer the last movie he was in. I think he is contractually obligated not to actually talk about it. There was an even earlier question where he was asked, was he going to be involved in Star Wars more? And he cheekily went on to smile and say, well, I would love that, of course. I would love to come back to Star Wars. And he didn't say a lot more. He just threw the card away. But it definitely was insinuated that Hayden Christensen, not only is he not done with Star Wars, but his last movie will be the Mandoverse movie of Dave Filoni, the still unnamed movie that Dave will go on to make. Of course, Hayden Christensen being back in Star Wars doesn't mean physically back, albeit there could be some, flashbacks similar to the Ahsoka series where Hayden will play his physical self as young Anakin, perhaps training Ahsoka and stuff like that, perhaps even as Darth Vader. That would be just spectacular, even more beautiful. But I suppose that him at the present playing Anakin in the latest movie will be as a Force ghost. We actually saw him as a Force ghost on Peridea as Ahsoka Season 1 ended. And it's no coincidence that both the Obi-Wan series and the Ahsoka series ended with Force ghosts. One with the Qui-Gon Force ghost, Liam Neeson came back for the first time, and now Anakin back as a Force Ghost too. So this is really shaping up to be something of the past connecting to the future. It's all very great, and I think Dave has a lot of good plans for this movie. Even recently, Dave Filoni went on an interview at StarWars.com where he actually revealed that throughout the timeline of Star Wars, there were many Jedi and Force wielders that were different from others. He actually addressed Episode 3, the very, very controversial episode of The Acolyte, where it pretty much was assumed that canon is now retconned and kind of shuffled around because Anakin is not the only Force-created being anymore. It seems that way, albeit we're gonna find out more as the episodes go on. Of course, the witches. As of right now, we thought that the witches were the Night Sisters mostly, but now we find out that there's even a different sect, a different coven of witches. And Dave Filoni himself said that, not all witches are Night Sisters. So these guys might play a role in the movie too, together with Anakin's Force Ghost, Ahsoka. These witches could go up against the Night Sisters of Thrawn, magic against Force, against, battleships, real physical stuff. So everything will be thrown into this movie, it seems. And hey, why not? I'm here for it. As for now, he is one of the biggest contributors to Star Wars canon, and also we've seen that he borrows a lot from Star Wars Legends. So he, on both fronts, he is the hero that Star Wars needs the most right now. And in a recent interview, he went on to talk a lot more about not only what we've seen, but what we are about to see. We also talked a lot about a Clone Rebellion show and what that would look like. He talked on the Josh Horowitz interview that he is already finished the intro scene, the beginning scene of his movie, The Mandalorian Mandalorian movie. He went in depth about a lot of things, but one of the biggest things to come out of that interview is him talking about essentially what is known as the retcons we've seen from the comics to the animated versions to the animated shows and now his movies too. Even in the live action ones with Ahsoka, we've seen that tidbits are being shuffled and moved around. More notably, we remember in the Bad Batch season opener where the Kanan Jarrah story is kind of shuffled. So he went on to explain a lot in that podcast. This is what he actually said. I tend to look at it a little bit like Arthurian tales, to be honest, and how depending on what version you're reading and translation, they can be widely different. But Arthur is usually Arthur and does the things he's supposed to do. Those things remain true. And that's very much folktale and fairy tale type of ideology. If we tell a story in animation, or if it's in a comic, and then we bring it to the screen in a different way, we might make changes to it out of the medium, out of the bias of the person making it, but it should still maintain the heart and the important moments of what people liked about that story. He is clearly talking about maintaining George's vision true. What George Lucas created was magnificent, and Dave Filoni is the one, the protege, to actually continue the canon moving along. We talked about Kanan Jarrus, how it was changed a little bit. Also, we see that with Thrawn, things are changed a bit, but borrowed from Legends too. There are a lot of elements in there, and it seems that Dave Filoni is trying to maintain everything, as I said, the glue holding everything together, albeit with some tidbits here and there. And this is why I'm hopeful for the Captain Rex story, because even after Rebels, I know that Captain Rex will have a great ending and a great follow-up after that series. This was kind of even confirmed with D. Bradley Baker, the voice behind all the clones. He talked about not only all the clone troopers and what's in store for them, but that the future is pretty much bright with Dave and him working closely. In a recent interview just merely a couple of days ago, Bradley Baker talked to The Hollywood Reporter, and he went on to talk about the tantalizing clone storylines that could be further explored. Guys, he has insider knowledge. If D. Bradley Baker is talking like this, then for sure he has talked to Dave Filoni about all of these clones, knowing full well that their stories have not yet finished, not even close. So let's go immediately into the interview and then we're gonna dissect it. He went on to say to The Hollywood Reporter just a couple of days ago, he said, well, it's tantalizing, isn't it? Because a number of clones are still in play, including Echo. And he has a really remarkable story. He had a uniquely challenging story to overcome with how he's been put through the ringer when he was captured and then kind of reassembled as part machine. And yet he comes out of this with this attitude of let's get back in there and let's make things better. And people really love that. So I'm encouraged that these threads are still open for storytelling. Like what happens to Clone Commander Cody? Where does Echo go? How do clones like Rex, Wolf, and Gregor end up together and then eventually end up in a fishing spaceship on a remote planet at some point? How do these things happen? Everybody wants to know because they love these clones, and love them we do, D. Bradley Baker. And you might be jumping up and down with joy because he didn't just talk about Echo. He talked about Echo mostly, but he also mentioned, as you noticed, Commander Cody. He talked about Rex, Wolf, and Gregor. So you can see that the multitude of stories to be told from the clones' perspective during the Imperial times, them fighting against the Empire, is just magnificent. It's a treasure trove for Dave Filoni.